Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is one of those exciting times when it is a thrill to welcome you to the channel because we've got some not only breaking news, but groundbreaking news. Now, before I get started, I need to let you know that under German law, what we call the Datenschutzgesetz, we are not allowed to release the personal information of anyone in Germany, whether they're involved in a court case, whether they're not. But even if someone is in a published decision from a court, we're not allowed to give you that information. So while we will give you the case number and we will give you the date of the decision, we'll even give you the name of the court from which it was rendered, we cannot give you the name of the individual person. And that's not even published on the court's website. Additionally, everything I'm talking about right now with regards to this decision, we're going to make available on our website. So there you can find either the original German, redacted, of course, to protect the identity of the person involved, and you can also find an English translation. So let me give you the summary of what has me so excited. For the first time, as far as I know, ever, an international court is poised to declare a particular piece of the American sex offender policy to be a human rights violation. More specifically, the judge in this case has described ammonia aversion therapy as torture. Let me explain why. There's a young man who was in the state of Arizona who was serving lifetime probation for possessing 3 depictions of child pornography. I don't know what those depictions were, don't care, not the point of this particular discussion. But as part of his therapy, in his 9th successful year of this therapy, his therapist decided that he needed to undergo ammonia aversion therapy. Now, this was not his probation officer that decided this. This was not court ordered. This was a therapist who simply decided he needed to do it. But because therapy was court ordered, as part of his sentence, if he did not go through with it, then he was going to be in violation of his probation. What would that mean? Well, if he violated, he was facing 15 years for each of the 3 depictions. So he was facing anywhere from 15 to 45 years in prison if he refused to submit to ammonia aversion therapy. Now, as he was making the decision about whether or not to submit, he was given a fact sheet, and this fact sheet informed him that he could suffer side effects such as nose bleeding, coughing, or nausea. And when he thought about it, he didn't think that was such a good idea, that he would be physically subjected to pain, which, as the German judge agrees, is amount to torture. So he left Arizona and came to Germany. Quick aside, his story of going from Arizona to Germany is every bit as exciting as my story of escaping from prison. His story is great. It is easily on par with mine, and in a separate video, he has already given me permission to tell you that story, and I promise I'm going to. But to continue with this story, once he arrived here in Germany, he got in contact with our lawyer who took up the case and took it to the German courts. We now have a preliminary decision from the court. Now, let me emphasize this is a preliminary decision. However, it gives us a very strong indication of where the judge is trying to go with this. So let me read to you what the judge had to say. This is how she described it. It is generally known that ammonia has a strong alkaline effect on the mucous membranes of the eyes and throat, and that inhalation of the corresponding vapors leads to coughing, nausea, and headaches. If larger quantities are inhaled, there is even a risk to life due to edema or severe damage to the mucous membranes of the respiratory system, including pulmonary edema. The eyes are at risk because diffusion can take place into the inside of the eye. She goes on to describe the side effects, which include nosebleeds, watery eyes, coughing, breathing difficulties, and headaches. She made particular note that science has proven that ammonia therapy, as a so-called pure behavioral therapy for sexual offenders, has not proven to be useful, and in some cases has even led to an increase in the number of recidivism. She concluded by saying, the obligation to carry out such therapy, which possesses significant health risks, is considered to be inconsistent with the European Convention on Human Rights. To say that in really plain English, anyone who is being subjected to ammonia aversion therapy is undergoing torture. And that, by definition, is a human rights violation. Just so we're crystal clear, when I talk about ammonia aversion therapy, you might not quite know what I'm talking about. What happens in this instance is they put the plasmograph, a condom-like tube, on the penis, and then they show the subject, images of children. And if the subject begins to become aroused, if the penis becomes swollen, enlarged, engorged, or erect, then that person has to inhale capsules of ammonia. Well, obviously, as I just described, inhaling that ammonia causes nosebleeds, coughing, watery eyes, and so forth. That is barbaric. And that's not just my opinion. We now have a German judge who agrees with me, or agrees with the rest of us who live in a civilized society. The United States, through the FBI and the U.S. Marshal's Office, are on this man's heels. They followed him to Germany, and they have been demanding that the German government hand this young man back over to them so that they can return him to the United States to face between 15 and 45 years in prison because he refused to submit to torture. The German government, more specifically the German courts, have said no. But by the strength of this language that she uses, it's not just no, it's hell no. So as it stands today, pending the final issuance of this order, this young man is going to spend the rest of his life safely protected here in Europe. Now, we expect the final decision to come out in this case within the next month or two. I don't think that's unreasonable. When that final decision comes down, and it is case law here in Germany, we will make that information available to you. We will publish the final report, of course, redacted with this young man's name taken out. That's going to be massive news. So at this point, the German courts have so far done what the American courts refused to do, and that is to call out the sex offender policy in the United States for what it is. It's abusive. And I understand there are those who are going to say, well, these people abuse children or abuse the elderly or abused women, and they deserve to be abused. But we live in a civil society. We claim to live in a civil society, and civil society does not include torture. I'm sure there are other ways to treat those who have mental health disorders that predispose them to commit sexual offenses. I'm sure there are more humane ways to do that. So now you have the latest news from Germany, and it's good news. I hate to sound like an infomercial, but if you or someone you love has had to undergo ammonia aversion therapy, is undergoing ammonia aversion therapy, or is being threatened with it, we would really like to know about that. More specifically, our lawyer would really like to know about that. This was a good step forward. If you're not happy with your situation, whether or not it includes ammonia aversion therapy, it's on you to do something about it. I did something about it. Oh my God, I have not regretted it. This young man decided to do something about it, and he's not regretting it. So I'm just saying, if you're not happy, do something about it. Until next time, my friends, when I hope to bring you even more fascinating, interesting, and exciting breaking news, I wish you health and happiness. Until next time, cheers.